Good afternoon, everyone. We are back with discussing yet another question on the pre-populated balance sheet, but today we'll be approaching, of course, a question on, pre-populated P&L, not a question on pre-populated balance sheet, because I think we have done enough of balance sheets, enough of cash flow statements. So this is another question on pre-populated P&L. Okay, have a look. This is not the question. This one is. What are you supposed to do? Explain with suitable calculations how Ashanti should deal with the sale of equity instruments in Bokem in the consolidated financial statements. Explain how Ashanti should deal with the sale of equity interest in Serum and its remaining investment in Serum in the consolidated statement of profit or loss. No calculations are required in this part. Briefly explain the correct treatment of Ashanti's sale to Spice. Using pre-pop, so 6 plus 4 plus 2, 12 marks. ठीक है. Then 13 marks for the pre-populated P&L option, and then there is a completely unrelated exhibit. ठीक है. How Ashanti should deal with the sale of equity instruments in Bokem. Exhibit: Ashanti, a public limited company, has equity interests in several companies, including Bochem and Serum, who both operate in the same industry. The financial accountant recently went on a sick leave and, before doing so, started to draft the consolidated statement of profit or loss. ठीक है. For the year ended 30th April 2009. The statement is incomplete and there are a number of outstanding items that need to be factored in. The following information is relevant to the preparation of the group statement of profit or loss. The following exhibits available below provide information relevant for parts A and B of the question: sale of shares in Bokem, sale of shares in Serum, additional transaction, and then draft statements. On 1st of May 2007, Ashanti acquired 70% of the equity interest of Bokem, a public limited company. The fair value of identifiable net assets at that date was 160 million. The share capital and retained earnings of Bokem were 55 million and 85 million respectively, and other components of equity were 10 million at the date of acquisition. ठीक है. The excess of the fair value of identifiable net assets at acquisition is due to an increase in the value of plant, which is depreciated on a straight line basis. ठीक है. And has a 5-year remaining life at the date of acquisition. The financial accountant has included the fair value depreciation adjustment along with relevant income and expense figure for Bokem in the draft consolidated statement of P&L. Ashanti disposed of a 10% equity interest to the not to NCI of Bokem on 30th April for a cash consideration of 34 million. The carrying amount of net assets of Bokem at 30th April was 210 million before any adjustment on consolidation. Goodwill arising on the acquisition of Bokem was 44 million but had reduced in value by 20% before the sale of equity interest to NCI. Goodwill was calculated using the fair value method and then sale of shares in Serum. ये अलग पार्ट है. ठीक है. Let's talk about sale of shares in Bochem. ठीक है. कैसे करना है इसको? Is it a मतलब after the disposal, what is happening? Is it still a subsidiary? Has it become an associate? Do you have no holding left? How would you describe the situation?
Still a
Still a
subsidiary.
subsidiary.
Still a subsidiary.
Control to
Can we
control.
call it a control to control transfer?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है. So there will be no gain or loss to the group on transaction. Goodwill is not recalculated. ठीक है. Whatever are the differences, they are accounted for in other components of equity. ठीक है. अब let's understand how this entire adjustment is supposed to be done. Now, first of all, let's get the value of your net assets on the date of acquisition, net assets on the date on the reporting date or date of disposal. उसमें अपने को एक देखना पड़ेगा. ठीक है. Do you have the values on acquisition date, by the way?
Yes,
Yes.
sir. 160 million.
Fair value of identifiable net assets was 116. Share capital and retained earnings were 55 and 85. Other component of equity was 10. And what is the difference on account of? The difference is on account of a fair value adjustment. Correct. What is the date of acquisition? Date of acquisition is 1st of May 2007. ठीक है. And what is your reporting date? 30th April 2009. Weird, हाँ. 30th April 2009 is your reporting date. ठीक है. Date of acquisition है 1st of May 2007. We are now looking at 30th of April 2009. The carrying amount of net assets of Bochem at 30th April 2009 was 210 million before any adjustment on consolidation. ठीक है. Goodwill arising on acquisition of Bochem was 44 but had reduced in value by 20% before the sale of equity interest to NCI. Goodwill was calculated using the fair value method. ठीक है. Now, the carrying amount of net assets is 210, है ना? But there is a fair value adjustment that has happened on the acquisition date. ठीक है. चलो यहां पे करते हैं. Part A. And these are working notes for Part A. Working note 1. Calculation of net assets. ठीक है. तो जाने दो, इधर नहीं, नीचे करते हैं. इट विल स्पॉइल माय P&L. Acquisition date and balance sheet date. Acquisition date 1st of May 2007. ठीक है. बैलेंस शीट डेट है 30th of April 2000.
2009.
9.
ठीक है. Now, we have, luckily for us, we do have information. We have the breakup on acquisition date, equity capital, and retained earnings 55, 85. Equity capital, retained earnings 55, 85. ठीक है.
Other, yes.
Then there are other components of equity, 10 million. This is already there. What else do you have after that? There is a
Fair value adjustment.
कितने का था?
Fair value
का
adjustment.
total लो. What is the total?
150.
155.
150.
Revaluation surplus slash
10
fair value adjustment. कितना? 10.
million.
Okay. Now they have mentioned that carrying amount of net assets was 210 million before any consolidation adjustment. ठीक है. So ये जो तीन है, equity capital, retained earnings, other component of equity, this is 210 million. ठीक है. And then of course, what is this 10 million का fair value adjustment? ठीक है. The excess of the fair value of net assets at acquisition date is due to an increase in the value of plant which is depreciated on a straight line basis and has a 5-year remaining life at the date of acquisition. The financial accountant has included the fair value depreciation adjustment along with relevant income and expense figures for Bochem. See, the value of plant and machinery must have gone up by 10 million, right? The value of plant and machinery went up by 10 million. PPE account debit to revaluation surplus 10 million से increase हुआ and it has a useful life of 5 years. So every year, and they have mentioned that on the revalued amount again there has been depreciation. So can I write down यहाँ पे depreciation on the fair value adjustment part?
4 million. Yeah.
-4. कैसे आया -4?
10 divided by 5 into 2.
Additional depreciation is 10 into 1 by 5, because 5 years into 2, which is 4. ठीक है. I had a feeling that, net assets का तो use होगा ही होगा in some form or the other. So I've just kept it ready. Should we need it? ठीक है.
सर
हाँ.
आफ्टर द बैलेंस शीट डेट 10 इसीलिए रहा क्योंकि वो रिवैल्यूएशन सरप्लस का था ना, अभी तो कोई चेंज
हाँ.
नहीं हुआ है ना। ओके
नहीं. This is only on account of that. ठीक है. Ashanti disposed of a 10% equity interest to NCI of Bochem on 30th of April 2009 for a cash consideration of 34 million. ठीक है. Now, what are the proceeds of disposal? Proceeds of disposal, 10% holding sold. कितने में?
34
34 million.
34 million.
कैश
34. And what are we comparing this with? We are comparing this with C.
NC.
The whole
Sold 10% holding. What was the value of the 10% holding of the company?
216 into 10%.
Working note 2. Calculation of value of 10% holding sold. ठीक है. अब in this case, the company had a goodwill of how much? And the company uses fair
Fair
value
value.
calculate the goodwill, which means this is a full goodwill method. Correct. मतलब आपका जो NCI है that is also at fair value and goodwill is also full goodwill. Now, in this case, value of goodwill using full goodwill method कितना है? 44 less 20% impairment कितना हो जाएगा? -20%. ठीक है. So goodwill post impairment कितना है? 44. ठीक है. 35.2 is the amount of goodwill. Now, what is the value of the company on disposal date? It is value of net assets
Plus goodwill.
plus goodwill. Correct. तो वो कितना हो जाएगा? 216 plus 35.2. That is 251.2. So, what is the value of the 10% stake sold off? It should be this into 10%, 25.12. ठीक है. This is the value of the 10% stake sold. Now, you have sold something which is a 10% stake. The value of that 10% stake is 25.12. You sold it for 34. Proceeds of disposal, 10% holding sold, less value of 10% holding, 25.12. You got this from where? You got this from working note 2. ठीक है. So, gain which is shown in other components of equity. 8.88. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm just going to call it gain/loss on control to control transfer. ठीक है. So this is a smart piece of calculation that we had to do in part A. Is that all? See, these are the calculations. Okay. You will have to describe the transaction. In the sense, you will have to explain in detail कि when this number came about, the fact that this was a control to control transfer and why it was a control to control transfer, वो सब आपको एक बार अच्छे से explain करना पड़ेगा. And you will be able to do that provided you are well aware of the concept. So main answer का part is explaining this. बाकी everything else is the supporting calculation. So make sure that you explain it properly. ठीक है? Mention that it does not lead to loss of control. पहले इतना था 30 NC, पहले तो होल्डिंग 70 था, अभी 60 हो गया. ठीक है? So that way. Nothing else apart from that. This is a कितने मार्क्स का सब पार्ट है ये अपना? This part A is worth how many marks? Part A1 is worth 6 marks. अच्छा है ना? इतना सा करके आपको 6 मार्क मिल गया. A little bit of patience. If you hurry up, you will make a mistake. Don't forget to add the goodwill value. ठीक है? When you are calculating value of the company, don't forget to goodwill value. Everything else is pretty straightforward. Explain how Ashanti should deal with the sale of equity investment in Serum and its remaining investment in the consolidated statement of P&L. No calculations are required in this part. ठीक है? ये how to deal with this sale of equity investment interest in Serum and its remaining investment. ठीक है? Ashanti acquired 80% of the equity instruments in Serum, a public limited company, on 1st of May 2007. The purchase consideration was cash of 95.2 million. Serum's identifiable net assets were fair valued at 115 million, and NCI of Serum had a fair value of 26 million at that date. Net assets itna, cash consideration itna, and fair value of Serum itna. Do you think it will help us to quickly calculate the goodwill? है ना? Goodwill.
Yes, but
Yes, sir.
not required.
But for that, always check is what I was coming to. See if it is required or not. Just because some information is given doesn't mean that you jump at the first thing you know. On 1st of November, Ashanti disposed of 50% of the equity of Serum for a consideration of 90 million. Serum's identifiable net assets were 160 million and NCI was 35 million at the date of disposal. The remaining equity instrument of Serum held by Ashanti was fair valued at 45. The financial accountant was unsure how to account for the disposal, so he included the full year of income and expenses of Serum in the draft consolidated statement of profit or loss. Nothing else was recorded in respect of Serum. After the disposal, Ashanti can still exert significant influence. Goodwill had been impairment tested and is 1 second. Where were we? Yes. So, what exactly are we supposed to answer here? अपने को पूछा है explain how Ashanti should deal with the sale of equity interest in Serum and its remaining investment in Serum in the consolidated statement of P&L. No calculations are required. So you don't need to calculate gain or loss on disposal or absolutely anything. You just need to tell earlier there was a 70% holding, now there is a 50% holding. ठीक है. When was the holding sold? It was
Not
acquired 1st of
50%.
May.
50% holding was sold.
80 was there. Okay, sorry, I thought 70. 80% was there and 50% is sold. So you still have a 30% holding in the company. ठीक है. It was sold on 1st of November 2008. Your year starts on 1st of May. So May, June, July, August, September, October, November. How many months have gone by?
6 months, sir.
6 months.
I
So
mean,
May,
1.5 year
June, July.
totally.
No, in the current year, how many months?
6 months.
6 months.
Months. So May, June, July, August, September, October. 6 months have gone by and you have disposed of 50% stake in the company. For how much? For 90 million. Now with that in mind, let's try to understand ki if this has happened, how should the accounting treatment be or what all should happen in the consolidated statement of P&L? Who can tell me? Yes, Shubh.
Yes, sir. So for this 8th month, from the date that we have acquired and the date we are disposing of the 50% share, it will be accounted as a proportionate basis because, like, if revenue of that company is 100, then our share will be 80%. Then that 80% will be added to our like consolidated financial statement by the what I can say
No, 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 no,
in the
no.
proportionate of month
No,
9 by
no.
12.
एक तो ये 9/12, 8/12, I don't know where you are getting this from. There are 6 months before the company stops being a subsidiary. May, June, July, August, September, October. 6 months का consolidation होगा. Whatever is the revenue, income, expense, cost of
हाँ,
sale, सब 6 months के लिए proportionate calculate होगा. 80% का कोई रोल नहीं है यहाँ पे. ठीक है. वॉट एवर इज द रेवेन्यू इंटू 6/12, कॉस्ट इंटू 6/12, सब ऐसे कर करके आप उसको, यू विल हैव टू एड इट अप. ठीक है. You will have to add it up in the consolidated
P&L
P&L. उसके बाद 6 months के लिए the entity is your associate entity.
associate.
तो टेक द प्रॉफिट, शेयर ऑफ इन्वेस्टर इन प्रॉफिट ऑफ एसोसिएट. वो वहां पे आपको 30% अप्लाई करना पड़ेगा. कैलकुलेट द प्रॉफिट इंटू 30%, इट विल बी एडेड एज अ सिंगल लाइन आइटम.
Single line
प्लस
item
वॉट
after
एवर
profit
द
computation.
गेन और लॉस ऑन डिस्पोजल ऑफ द एंटिटी, तो वो आपको कैलकुलेट करके यू विल हैव टू ऑल्सो इंश्योर कि in the consolidated P&L, you include the gain or loss on disposal of subsidiary. You know how that is calculated? Fair value of interest retained plus proceeds of disposal minus
Net assets of
debts.
the subsidiary, add goodwill and less NCI of the subsidiary.
Very good. And all of this is on the date of disposal. ठीक है. And do not forget to discuss the fact that yes, 6 months के लिए it is an associate, तो share of investor in profit of associate will have to be included, right?
Yes, sir.
That is the accounting treatment. And
I
then
have a doubt here. Like
tell
while
me.
answering these type of questions, do we need to present it in a point of like point to point as like this denotes a control to no control situation. So the
Yes,
treatment will follow us, like,
you will have to
not a
explain.
para.
Otherwise,
Oh,
you could best if you write it in points, or in such a case, in this situation, best if you give different subheadings. Treatment for May to November, and then treatment
Hmm.
post November, and within that you describe key. Now it was a subsidiary for the first 6 months, so you proportionately included the impact of results, and then you included all the other aspects. So
Yeah.
associate वाला part give a separate heading, ये part give a separate heading, and profit or loss on disposal in consolidated financial statements, उसको अलग से heading दे दो.
Yeah. Thank you.
ठीक है. Anything else?
so should we mention it will be accounted under equity method? And
Yes, of course. So when you explain the fact that share of investor in post acquisition is getting included, that is the equity method, right? So mention that part. It will fetch you the right number of marks. ठीक है. Now, there is one more part. Briefly explain the correct treatment of Ashanti's sale to Spice. Ashanti sold inventory to Bokem and Serum in October 2008. The sale price of the inventory was 10 million and 5 million respectively. Ashanti sells goods at a gross profit margin of 20% to group cos. At the year end, half of the inventory sold to Bokem remained unsold, but the entire inventory sold to Serum had been sold to third parties. At the year end, Ashanti sold goods on credit to Spice, an unrelated company, and recognized revenue of 5 million. Before the date of sale, Spice had an announcement that it would be restructuring its debts. At the date of sale, it was deemed improbable that Ashanti would recover the amounts remaining. The financial accountant didn't get around to recording any adjustment for any of the additional transactions before going on sick leave. Sold goods on credit to Spice, an unrelated company, and recognized revenue of 5 million. Before the date of sale, Spice had made an announcement that it would be restructuring its debts. At the date of sale, it was deemed improbable that Ashanti would recover the amounts outstanding. What should you do here?
It's not
sir,
probable that the entity will collect its revenue, so we shouldn't recognize the revenue at all.
And if you have recorded revenue, then what should you do?
reverse it.
Reverse it.
Reverse.
Reverse it.
You remember when we were doing IFRS 15, na? On the very first day and in the very initial discussion, let me show it to you. We had specifically discussed what is a contract. And in that part, what is a contract? There is a very clear line. Let me take you to that. ठीक है. An entity can only account for revenue if the contract meets the following criteria. 1, 2, 3, 4, most important, it is probable that the entity will collect the consideration to which it is entitled in exchange for the goods or services. So it is probable that the entity will collect the consideration. In this case, the question specifically mentions कि they are going for debt restructuring, है ना? यहाँ पे लिखा है at that date it was deemed probable that Ashanti would recover the amount it was deemed improbable that Ashanti would recover the amount outstanding. So, if any revenue has been recorded, should you continue with that or should you reverse the revenue that was already recorded?
Reverse.
Reverse.
Whatever revenue was already recorded, that amount has to be reversed. Now, all of these aspects हैं, जैसे ये IFRS 15 का कुछ हो गया, ऐसा छोटा छोटा parts are constantly tested in the paper. Revenue, I would say, is one of the most tested accounting standards. ठीक है, so don't take it lightly. IFRS 15 अच्छे से करके जाना पेपर में. ठीक है, quickly go through this. Last part is where all the attention is. Probable will collect the consideration.
Sir, if we wrote an exam, the variable consideration wala in this answer, we won't get numbers.
No, not at all. इसका वेरिएबल कंसिडरेशन के साथ क्या रिलेशन है?
Sir, it is highly uncertain that the amount will be recovered.
नो यार, ये वो वाला कनेक्शन नहीं है ना. वेरिएबल कंसिडरेशन इज वेयर देयर इज अ पार्ट ऑफ कंसिडरेशन एंड यू आर नॉट श्योर वेदर यू विल रिसीव इट और नॉट बेस्ड ऑन द फुलफिलमेंट और नॉन फुलफिलमेंट ऑफ सर्टन कंडीशन ना. वो जस्ट बिकॉज दैट अनसर्टन वर्ड इज देयर यू कैन नॉट लिंक द टू.
Okay, sir.
ठीक है, चलो. Using the pre-populated spreadsheet response option and your answer to A2 and A3, adjust the spreadsheet prepared by the financial accountant of Ashanti in order to prepare a completed consolidated statement of P&L. ठीक है, the spreadsheet should take into account sale of shares in Serum, transactions between Ashanti, Bokem and Serum, Ashanti's sale to Spice. No adjustments are required in respect of Bokem. Work to one decimal place. ये बोकेम वाला पार्ट तो सिर्फ अदर कंपोनेंट ऑफ इक्विटी वाला पार्ट है, राइट. एंड देन देयर इज दैट एडिशनल डेप्रिसिएशन थिंग विच हैज ऑलरेडी बीन इंक्लूडेड. अब ये सीरम कंपनी वाज सोल्ड 6 months डाउन द लाइन. दिस इज द कंसोलिडेटेड स्टेटमेंट ऑफ पी एंड एल. व्हाट डू यू थिंक वी शुड बी डूइंग राइट नाउ? सी, क्या हुआ है, व्हाट हैज हैपेंड हियर?
Revenue of Serum is added. पूरा
Entire
का
revenue
पूरा.
of Serum is added.
Full revenue of Serum has, or full figures of Serum company have been included, right? When in
Yes,
fact
sir.
it should have been included only for 6 months. You have done what you have done is you have included full revenue of 142.8 when in fact this full revenue should not have been included. And how do you know this? The financial accountant was unsure how to account for disposal, so he has included the full year of income and expenses in the draft consolidated financial statements. ठीक है, full year of income and expenses in draft consolidated statement of P&L. This is what he has done, and this is what we need to correct. So, whenever you read data points, make it a point to underline. Otherwise, फिर you will get lost in that loop. I've already kept it ready here. Adjustment 1 is going to be deducting 6-month results of Serum included by error, है ना? That is the first adjustment. इसको ओपन रखते हैं साइड बाय साइड. 142.8 इसका हाफ करो. अच्छा, हाफ क्यों करना पता है ना?
Yes, sir.
6/4.
प्लीज, हाँ, ये आता है ना सबको?
Yes.
84.4
Add it, sir. Add it, not deduct.
minus of minus. Yes. So Gautam's thinking hat is on today. Then अभी ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट आप कैलकुलेट मत करो, ठीक है? लुक एट ऑपरेटिंग एक्सपेंसेस
38.4.
38.4 38.4 upon 2. Operating profit, do nothing. Is there investment income? No, 0. Is there interest expense?
2
2.1.1. ठीक है. Income tax expense 3.8. अरे 1.9. ठीक है, ये हो गया मेरा फर्स्ट एडजस्टमेंट. नाउ वील हैव टू सी कि यार और कौन सा एडजस्टमेंट है दैट इज रिक्वायर्ड हियर. ठीक है. नाउ आई एम श्योर, सी स्टार्ट रीडिंग फ्रॉम द बिगिनिंग. And what else can you do? There is a sale of subsidiary that has taken place, so we'll have to calculate profit on disposal of subsidiary. Adjustment to profit on disposal of subsidiary. ठीक है, कैसे आएगा?
We already calculated, no, sir.
We did.
Part A calculation was there.
No, this was control to control ना.
हाँ सर, ये कंट्रोल टू कंट्रोल था वो बाकी रह गया है.
वो उसमें
अब
आप क्योंकि
क्लियर ही था ना वो कभी.
I said don't calculate.
उसमें कैलकुलेशन था ही नहीं इसलिए.
So sale or fair value of interest retained. Add disposal proceeds less fair value of net assets on disposal date plus goodwill on date of disposal minus
NCI.
NCI on date of disposal. What is fair value of net assets on disposal date? Serum's identifiable net assets were 160 million and NCI was 35 million at the date of disposal. Correct. So can we just straight away write this number without further thought कि life को complicate करना है unnecessarily? No need to do that. Some things can be easy. Let them be. ठीक है. और we need goodwill on date of disposal. So calculation of goodwill on disposal date. कैसे आएगा?
Purchase consideration plus NCI minus fair value of net assets.
Fair value of consideration paid plus fair value of NCI on
Date
date.
of acquisition.
No,
Acquisition.
of acquisition
Acquisition dates.
Acquisition on letter.
minus fair value of
Net assets.
Net assets
net
at
assets
acquisition.
on date of on acquisition date. You do this and you get what? You get
Goodwill on
goodwill
acquisition.
on acquisition. ठीक है. What is fair value of consideration paid? यहाँ पे था ना.
95.2.
You paid 95.2. 26 is NCI. 95.2. 26 is NCI.
115 is net assets.
115 million is the net assets. 115 million is the net assets.
6.2.
6.2 is goodwill on acquisition. Need to know if this goodwill was impaired ever.
No impairment.
No, sir. No impairment was there.
There has been no impairment of goodwill in the
Ah,
question.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Last paragraph they have written that.
So less impairment loss 0. बचा कितना?
Goodwill on disposal.
Same.
6.2.
See, for us now, doing this is important because we clearly have to arrive at goodwill on disposal date. Exam में भूलना मत कि you need goodwill on disposal date. ठीक है? ठीक है? This is your. Now, what are the disposal proceeds? 90 million. Correct. Remaining equity interest was fair valued at 45 million. 45, 90.
Sir,
सर ऊपर नीचे नहीं कर दिया?
ऊपर नीचे हाँ add it a little bit higher.
ठीक है? What will you get after this? You will get gain or loss on disposal date. Gain slash loss on disposal date. 3.8. Where will this go? Gain or loss on disposal date, nahi, on disposal. Where will this go?
Financing section of SPL.
Invest.
Investing system.
Sorry, investing
Investing.
section of SPL.
So we can just write it here as a separate line item maybe.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
है ना? Add gain on disposal of subsidiary. This is adjustment number 2. ठीक है? Okay. Now I think there has been an intercompany transaction. Ashanti sold inventory to both Bokem and Serum in October 2008. The sale price of inventory was 10 and 5 million. Ashanti sells goods at a gross profit margin of 20% to group companies. At the year end, half of the inventory sold to Bokem remain unsold, but the entire inventory sold to Serum had been sold to third parties. At the year end, Ashanti sold goods. चलो ये वाला पार्ट हटा दो. Ashanti sold goods to both Pokem and Serum in October 2008. So is this before Serum was disposed of as a subsidiary?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
1st of November. This sale happened on
Sir.
month of October 2000. ठीक है. So what should you do in this situation? First of all, find out what is the amount of unrealized profit. है ना? आपको unrealized profit निकालना पड़ेगा, but at the same time, remember one thing that this is an intercompany sale purchase, so that also will have to be removed.
Yes, sir.
Adjustment 3, intercompany sale and purchase. What is the value of intercompany sale purchase?
10 million and 5
5
million.
plus 10, that 15 million. तो revenue में से minus करो, minus 15. ठीक है? Now, adjustment 4,
Profit.
realized profit. Profit on unsold stock. ठीक है? Now, intercompany sale value less purchase cost. ठीक है? Intercompany इधर है. कौन सा है? What is the first company? Bokem. It sold goods to Bokem worth 10 and Serum worth 5 million. ठीक है?
Here I must no inventory left, right?
Wait. We'll do that. Gross profit is how much?
20%.
20%. This into 20%. Now, the fact in this question, what is the cost of goods sold? It mentions that half of the inventory sold to Bochem remains unsold, but entire inventory sold to Serum had been sold to third parties. So, what is unsold inventory percentage?
50.
50%. Here it is 0%, right? So, unrealized profit is ठीक है. अब ये जो अनरियलाइज्ड प्रॉफिट है, अनरियलाइज्ड प्रॉफिट गेट्स एडेड, है ना?
कॉस्ट ऑफ सेल्स।
बिकॉज ये माइनस साइन के साथ लिखा है, दैट इज वाई. हाँ,
हाँ
ठीक,
सर।
अंडरस्टैंड. हाँ, वो कंफ्यूजन नहीं होना चाहिए. दिस इज बिकॉज दिस इज रिटर्न विथ अ माइनस साइन, तो ये सारे उल्टा उल्टा कर लिया. ठीक है. एनीथिंग एल्स दैट इज लेफ्ट?
This 5 million revenue recognition should be reversed.
यस सर।
5 million revenue, yes, that should be reversed. Share of profit of associate should be
इन्वेस्टमेंट।
Added, yeah.
है ना? So let me call this adjustment 5. ठीक है. What is profit for the year? 14 is profit for the year. ठीक है. Into 6 by 12 into
30%.
30%. So 14 into 7 into 30%, 2.1. कहाँ पे डालूं?
इन्वेस्टमेंट में।
In under investments below one line
Add
separately.
another line, share of profits. So
Add share in profit of associate, 2.1. ठीक है. एंड व्हाट एल्स? दैट 5 का एडजस्टमेंट करना था, राइट? रेवेन्यू रिवर्सल. ठीक है. कैन यू कंप्लीट द टेबल? आई विल बी बैक इन अ मोमेंट. ठीक है, बाकी एडजस्टमेंट्स आर ओवर. जस्ट कंप्लीट द टेबल. चलो, अब टोटल्स ले लो. ठीक है. जीपी 186.3, 94.9, ठीक है. फिर 103.8, then 34.6, बचा कितना? 69.2. And now this has to be split between holding and NCI. कैसे करेंगे split इसको? Share of NCI.
Sir, profit is not given, no, for Bochem.
Yeah, Bochem is not given. So how should we go about it? What do you think? Any thoughts? Let's see if there are adjustments which are only relating to holding company. So let those be adjusted only in holding company. For example, ये जो adjustment 6 है that only relates to holding company. So NCI has got no share in it. So this is adjusted here. Then this one, share in profit of associate. ये वाला जो adjustment है that also relates to holding company. ये adjustment है unrealized profit. This is holding sold to subsidiary. So this should only be adjusted in the profit attributable to holding company. Right? Look at this. इसका net effect 0 है. So nothing to be done here. Then look at this. Gain on disposal of subsidiary. I think this also relates only to holding company. NCI has no role to play. ये देखो. How much is this? What is the net effect of this adjustment? 7 है ना, 7 million है. So your profit attributable to holding and profit attributable to NCI, this relates to both. ये गलती से include हो गया था. So that much part you should adjust. कितना? 7 into 80% and 7 into 20%. See, यहाँ से लेके यहाँ तक all are adjustments in books of holding, nothing to do with subsidiary. Holding का standalone adjustment है ये in a way, but this is all of these are relating to the subsidiary, right? So items of subsidiary which were erroneously included in the consolidated financial statement. So उसका net effect है 7, that has to be adjusted. ठीक है?
Sir, how did we calculate profit attributable there?
Where here?
70 and then 5.8.
This was given. This we didn't do. This is the draft column. This was already given to us. We only adjusted this part, which was the net effect of this column.
Okay, sir. No, I didn't see that number.
No problem. ठीक है? आया मजा? Consolidated P&L. But one part is still left. The directors of, yes, Shubh.
सर सिर्फ लास्ट का जो आपने जो एडजस्टमेंट किया ना, जो सिर्फ होल्डिंग कंपनी में सारे जो एडजस्ट किए, वो सिर्फ थोड़ा नहीं समझा.
ये 5 मिलियन का एरर इन रिकॉर्डिंग है, ये
हाँ
सिर्फ
हाँ.
कंपनी के बुक्स में है. तो ये मैं एनसीआई में क्यों एडजस्ट करूँ? तो इसको सिर्फ यहाँ पे एडजस्ट किया. फिर ये 2.1 शेयर इन प्रॉफिट ऑफ एसोसिएट, ये भी सिर्फ होल्डिंग कंपनी का है ना, तो इट इज एट्रीब्यूटेबल टू होल्डिंग कंपनी, तो वो यहाँ पे इंक्लूड किया. सो ऑल ऑफ दीज एडजस्टमेंट्स 2 to 5 दीज रिलेट एक्सक्लूसिवली. इसमें एनसीआई का कोई शेयर नहीं है. एनसीआई का शेयर सिर्फ यहाँ पे आएगा वेयर profits of revenues, income, expense of subsidiary were included in
Yeah,
the holding
included.
company. सिर्फ वहां पे एडजस्ट करना पड़ेगा.
ओके.
ठीक है?
ठीक है.
इसको एक एक बार करके देखना पड़ेगा हाँ सबको.
हाँ सर, हाँ सर.
Sir, one more query.
हम्म.
That accountant had prepared considering subsidiary also including everything, right? Like both subsidiaries.
हम्म.
So that NCI part would be for both subsidiary also, no? That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, this part is for everything. There could be 10 subsidiaries of this company. This is for all of them. We only have to adjust the issue with respect to this company which was disposed of during the year. तो सिर्फ
Okay.
उसका ही पार्ट हमने एडजस्ट किया, बाकी तो एवरीथिंग कैन रिमेन देयर ना, दैट इज नॉट चेंजिंग.
Okay. And then, sir, one more thing. The subsidiary was sold and then converted into associate, no? That intercompany adjustment do we have to do for sales?
What intercompany adjustment?
Intercompany sale.
What intercompany sale?
10 and 15 million we did, no, sir?
So we did na.
nahi, I'm asking because like it is like now associate in financials. Do we have to
What is the
add and
date of,
reduce it?
1 second. What is the date of disposal? October to, what is the date of sale? October 2008. So when did this transaction take place? This transaction took place when Serum was a subsidiary. We discussed that. तो वहां पे associate वाला adjustment is not required.
No. I just asked like should we adjust that 5 million ka? That's what.
What
Because
fine?
now, this is okay, sir. I was confused a little bit.
There is no unsold inventory now. What is there to adjust? Plus the entire whatever transaction took place before it ceased to be a subsidiary. तो किया तो हमने इंक्लूड उसको बराबर इन आर एनालिसिस.
Okay, sir.
ठीक है. Last part. The directors of Ashanti are considering acquiring 49.9 of the equity shares of Knight. The next biggest shareholders will be Knight's two original founders who hold 21% and 8% equity. The original founders are not related. The remaining 21.1% shares will be held by 11 shareholders who are acquaintances of the original founders but who have a remote relationship to one another. There has not been complete owner representation at the last three AGMs of Knight. Ashanti will have the ability to appoint four of the six members of Knight's board of directors. The board of Knight have overall responsibility for decisions that affect the entity's operations. Discuss whether the proposed share purchase will lead to Ashanti obtaining control over Knight. What do you think?
We will play that game like we have put 50.
So first we'll check if, because this is less than 50%, we have to mention that shareholders are not um, geographically wide and then disconnected people. First, we have to mention that that is
Like,
not possible in this case. But again, next point is it has like control of like four board members out of six. There it has a control because board members are taking all the decisions there.
Correct. See, you have 49.9 as you correctly pointed out, which is not 50. So you'll have to check what is the other shareholding pattern. There is one director who has more than 20, one co-founder who has 21% holding. So you can say that he has significant influence over the company. But the other people, they are in a way geographically, they are geographically dispersed. Okay. They do not have a close relationship with one another. In the past, at least one of the investors has not attended the AGM. So that gives Ashanti majority of the voting rights, plus the ability to appoint key managerial personnel. You are in a position to appoint a majority of members on the board. 6 में से 4 तो आप ही appoint कर रहे हो. So that gives you the ability to control. But again, in this case, you will have to describe the whole thing in detail. हाँ? आपको पूरा का पूरा इन डिटेल डिस्क्राइब करना पड़ेगा बिफोर कमिंग टू अ कंक्लूजन. मतलब आई नो यू आर जंपिंग टू गिव द आंसर कि यस देयर इज कंट्रोल, बट मेक श्योर दैट यू एक्सप्लेन ईच स्टेप इन द जर्नी, अदरवाइज इट्स ऑफ नो यूज. तब
I have
जाकर
a doubt here.
टेल मी.
Can I just show the question, please?
या.
It is said that the other shareholders are acquaintances to the founders. So would that mean something like they could have influence, like they could get arrangement with other set of investors, these founders?
They could, but what has happened is, see, there has not been complete owner representation at the last three AGMs, which means even though they could be connected or related, they are not present at the annual general meeting to vote on matters. That has also played a role. And plus you have over, and they mentioned that board has the overall responsibility of decisions for the company. And there is a six-member board and you can appoint four. So although that point could have been valid had they been coming together and voting on matters, but that is not the case in this situation, which is why we will use the other parts to establish control.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Sir, one query. That 11 shareholders are not geographically disconnected now, so they are connected. So that point also we can write, right?
Yeah. But we have to weigh in, see the fact that, there has not been complete owner representation at last three AGMs is also a very telling point. It is weighing in your favor of saying that you have control over the other entity. That point also plays a very critical role in this question.
So for this, we have to define the 3 points: what is control and circumstances where what
Yes.
defines control.
Yes. So the same pattern, right, that we apply in questions throughout.
Yes, sir.
And I think Roshan and yeah, only Roshan. You must have gotten access to the whole thing, right?
Which one, sir?
In the on the Plutus LMS, you must have gotten access to the whole thing. Full batch, na, not just exam kit solving.
I didn't know that. Let me check, please.
Check it once. I don't need the answer right now. Just check it and let me know. ठीक है? Okay. Chalo. It's 3:45. Let's take a 15-minute break. Come back at 4 p.m. We'll continue.